भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशाम् एष पुराणार्को धुनोदितः. This is Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, chapter 23, and today we'll be discussing texts 4 and 5. I have to apologize in advance because I had maybe less than 5 minutes warning. But we have to follow orders. So, please repeat. Savai Devarshi Varyah Tam Manavim Samanovratam Devat Gariyasaha Patyoho Ashashanam Mahashishah Kalena Bhuyasa Kshamam Karshitam Vratacharyaya Prema Gadgadaya Vacha Piditah Kripaya Abravit Savai Devarshi Varyastam Manavim Samanuvratam Daivad Gadiya Sahapatyor Ashasanam Mahashishah Kalena Bhuya Sakshamam Karshitam Vratacharyaya Prema Gadgadaya Vacha Piditaha Kripaya Bravit Savai Devarshi Varyastam Manavim Samanuvratam Devat Gariya Sahapatyor Ashasanam Mahashishah Kalena Bhuya Sakshamam Karshitam Vratacharyaya Prema Gadgadaya Vacha Piditaha Kripaya Bravit. First, yeah. Anyone? Savai Devarshi Varyastam Ashasanam Mahashishah Savai Devarshi Varyastam Manavim Samanuvratam Devad Gariya Sahapatyoho Ashasanam Mahashishah Ashasanam Mahashishah Savai Devarshivaryastam Manavim Samanuvratam Devad Garyasah Patyur Ashasanam Mahashishah. Ladies. Savai Devarshivaryastam Manavim Samanuvratam Devad Garyasah Patyur Ashasana Mahashishah. Saha, he, Kardama, Vai, certainly, Deva Rishi, of the celestial sages, Varyaha, the foremost, Tam, her, Manavim, the daughter of Manu, Samanuvratam, fully devoted, Devat, then providence, Gariyasaha, who was greater, Patyuhu, from her husband, Ashasanam, expecting, Mahashishaha, great blessings, Kalena, Bhuyasa, for a long time, Kshamam, weak, Karshitam, emaciated, Vratacharyaya, by religious observances, Prema, with love, Gadgadaya, stammering, Vacha, with a voice, Pidataha, overcome, Kripaya, with compassion, Abravita, he said. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as even greater than providence. Thus she expected great blessings from him. Having served him a long time, she grew weak and emaciated due to her religious observances. Seeing her condition, Kardama, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love. Please repeat. The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater even than providence. Thus she was expecting great blessings from him. Having served him for a long time, she grew weak and emaciated due to her religious observances. Seeing her condition, Kardama, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love. Purport. The wife is expected to be of the same category as the husband. She must be prepared to follow the principles of the husband, and then there will be happy life. If the husband is a devotee and the wife is materialistic, there cannot be any peace in the home. The wife must see the tendencies of the husband and must be prepared to follow him. From Mahabharata, we learn that when Gandhari understood that her would-be husband Dhritarashtra was blind, she immediately began to practice blindness herself. Thus she covered her eyes and played the part of a blind woman. She decided that since her husband was blind, she must also act like a blind woman, otherwise she would be proud of her eyes, and her husband would be seen as inferior. The word samanuvrata indicates that it is the duty of a wife to adopt the special circumstances in which the husband is situated. Of course, if the husband is as great as Kardama Muni, then a very good result accrues from following him. But even if the husband is not a great devotee like Kardama Muni, it is the wife's duty to adapt herself according to the mentality. That makes married life very happy. It is also mentioned herein that by following the strict vows of a chaste woman, Princess Devahuti became very skinny, and therefore her husband became compassionate. He knew that she was the daughter of a great king, and yet she was serving him just like an ordinary woman. She was reduced in health by such activities, and he became compassionate and addressed her as follows. So that we have to stay tuned, but for the time being, let us consider some of the implications of Srila Prabhupada's purport. Om Jnana-timirantasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshuran militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa kada mahyam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vansha Kalapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Madgavira Bigopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yadi Tadeva Sampayah Pitwa Hrishyayusta Priyajanaha. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur at the end of his Bhagavatam 10th Canto Commentary Prayers. My dear Lord Gopal, only if you accept my words as your cows, then they will provide sweet milk for the pleasure of your devotees. I have to pray like that because I'm not prepared to give this class. But we've been hearing that Devahuti, how she's been serving her husband with such great dedication, just like Bhavani served Lord Bhava, that is Lord Shiva. Vishrampenatma Shauchena, we heard, with purity of mind and body, with great intimacy. Gaudavena, with great respect. Damenacha, with self-restraint. Shrushrushriya, ready to do anything. Sohradena, with good intentions. And Vacha Madhurya, with sweet words. And what else have we got here? She was sane, she was diligent, she pleased her husband. She gave up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sin, and vanity. That's not easy to do. And it's in fact the last thing a woman wants to do. That's why the Shastra conjunction is to do the last thing that you want to do. That's called Shreyas instead of Preyas. And we can find in all the Shastra conjunctions throughout the Shastras, especially in the Dharma Shastras, there are some common denominators that enable those activities to purify our hearts. Krishna says twice in Bhagavad Gita. He lists at least 3 of them. Does anybody know what I'm thinking of? Three things that even great souls should not give up. Yes. What is it? Sacrifice, charity, austerity. These are the three common denominators that we find in all the injunctions that tell you to do something or not to do something. You have to give up something that you don't want to give up, and you have to accept something that you don't want to accept. That's austerity. And yajna forces that. Dana also forces that. It's basically austerity. Another way of saying it is tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam ityadi. As Rishabdev told his 100 sons, that lead a life of divine austerities. You have to engage in austerities anyway. It's not like it's not an austerity to say, for example, drive to Tijuana at 5 in the morning and spend all day in the dental office and have your teeth drilled on and poked and whatever they do there, and then come all the way back and you haven't eaten anything all day also. It's an austerity, but these things have to be done. This is life. So Rishabdev is very careful to say, tapo divyam. Do divya austerities. They're doing austerities, driving on I-10 towards downtown at this very moment, is it not? Austerity is going on. Husbands have to deal with wives that are difficult. Put yourself in Maharaj Shantanu's shoes. What's the first thing she asked for? You cannot get angry with me under any circumstances. No matter what I do, if you get angry, I'm out of here. And what was the first thing she asked? You take this baby and throw him in the Ganga. Who can imagine such a thing? Throw your firstborn child into the river. Kill him. And that husband is... Why are these instructions given? Why are these examples, I mean to say, given to us? Because you will find yourself in a circumstance where why is she doing this? And it will pull your hair out. And it doesn't just work that way. The women also, it's not easy to please a husband. Not easy. Hard work to maintain a house. They're thinking, what will I do if I don't go to work? Well, you'll do a lot of things that you maybe don't want to do, but they make your life very pleasing if you do them. Just like cooking. Nowadays, nobody knows how to cook, especially in modern societies, worldwide, America included. They don't know how to cook. So, the person who's working hard all day with these kinds of austerities that we've mentioned, he comes home and wants at least that the tongue will be satisfied, but she can't cook anything. Or even if she has time to cook anything, she's not there to cook because she's also working hard like an ass. My mother told me, she would know, because she was a girl during the World War II. She said nobody worked, no women ever worked outside the house until World War II. Then under the rubric of patriotism, or whatever it was, they said, go out there in the factories and produce bombs. So they all did that, but they didn't come home. Because once the concept was introduced into their minds that, we should be working outside instead, and we can get some money instead and some independence instead, then nobody came back. They all, from that point on, women are being exploited in the workplace, just like the men. So, it's austere. Life is not easy, but tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam. You should engage in your austerities in such a way that you actually get some elevation out of those austerities. So austere means to serve the spiritual master, to serve the husband, to serve the Vaishnavas, to serve the deity. Prabhupada also writes in his Chaitanya Charitamrita purport where once he says, pujaris, they have to undergo laborious austerities. Anyone who's a pujari, it's not easy. So these are the injunctions that are given in the Shastra. We're instructed to do things that we don't want to do because our nature is, by default, criminal. We have a nature, what one poet said, let me think if I can remember this. no, I can't remember, but he says he's praying to the flowers, and he sees the flowers in the springtime, and he said, you know, you are following your dharma, in a sense. This is what he's saying. This is an English poet. And he says, you know, why can't I, you know, oh yeah, he says, brave flowers, that I could gallant it like you, and be so little vain. For you come abroad and make a harmless shoe. Harmless shoe means show. And then to your beds of earth again. You're not proud, you know your birth. For your embroidered garments are earth. It's hard to understand if you're not a native speaker of English, but the idea is that this poet was sensitive enough to look at the flowers even. A simple thing that we all ignore every day. These daisies and whatever they are that grow in the lawn, we run them over with lawnmowers. But he's praising that, you know, you're not hurting anybody. You're coming, you know, maybe somebody notices your beauty and, you know, appreciates. He says, how many times have I seen you at a funeral where you're looking very sharp and spruce? And then he says, what else did he say? I'm thinking, I don't remember who it was even. Yeah, he's indicating you're following your days and your times. Only in the spring they come, not in the winter, unless you're in Southern California. But I would have it to be ever spring. I would have it to be spring every day if I could, right? This is our nature. In other words, our nature is to try to extract sense gratification at every step, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing. And that's criminal, actually. It's not allowed. Krishna says in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, you have to be vidheyatma. You can look this up if you're a student of Bhagavad Gita. It's there in your folio. Vidheyatma. And see what he says about it. Vidheyatma means somebody who follows the regulative principles of freedom. Anybody know that verse? Regulative principles of freedom? Brigopati will know. Shachi Tonoi will know. It's louder. Adikachati, yes. So, vidheyatma. Somebody whose very self is infused by shastric injunction. That's his life. He doesn't think of doing something other than that. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, that yashastra vidhamutsrijya vartate kamakarataha nasasiddhim avapnoti nasukham na paramgatim. If you just do whatever the heck you want, then you're not going to be happy, you're not going to get success, and you certainly won't go back to Godhead. You have to, tasmat chastram pramanam te karya vyavastitaha, Krishna says. Therefore you should discriminate what to do, what not to do. On what basis? On the basis of shastra pramana, what the shastra enjoins. This is a purified life. Devahuti was an exemplar of this purified life, and so was her husband. This is another point. Here the word is used, samanuvratam. She's following just as strictly as he is. They're both following, but they have different roles to play. That's an important truth. The word samanuvrata indicates that it is the duty of the wife to adopt the special circumstances in which her husband is situated. She gives the example of Gandhari. Even she didn't have to be blind, but she did not want to feel herself in any way to be superior to her husband. We've already heard in text 1 of this chapter that the word is used, ingita kovida. Devahuti is described with these words. She's expert in understanding the desires and the nature of her husband. And this is what a woman has to do if she's married, and she should be. So she has to understand what is the nature of the husband, and she has to mold her life according to his thing, not her thing. That's a hard thing to do. It's very, very difficult. It's like asking a disciple, just, you know, after you take initiation, now you should understand you no longer own yourself. Now you are a slave. Dasa means that only, isn't it? Not exactly slave, because here in America and other places, now we have a worldwide slave industry, isn't it? Multi-billion-dollar industry, trading people, trading illicit substances, all these things. You know, slavery involves these things now. So it's negative, but actually, better word than slavery is servitude. Maybe indentured servitude, we can say like that. Because once we take initiation, it's understood that I am giving my life to you. What did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tell Sanatana Goswami when he wanted to kill himself? Are Baba, you don't even own yourself anymore. I've got work to do through you. What are you thinking? It's essentially the same thing that Krishna told Arjuna. Only the non-Aryans think like this. You have to understand, you're a Kshatriya. You should not be thinking in these paltry ways. So all of us, we're all followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And we have to maintain the dignity of that name, Bhaktivedanta. We're all Bhaktivedantas in that sense. So we should understand that we have to embrace this mood of being real disciples, real servants. And that's not just in the spiritual realm also, it has to be manifest in your mundane life as well. Because what is the use of a spiritual ideology that has no practical application in today's world? Nothing. If you can't help anybody, if it doesn't elevate you in some way. So this is why Krishna says our eating, our sleeping, our mating and defending, these things also have to be purified. He calls this sattva samshuddhi. Anybody know where this is in Bhagavad Gita? Abhayam sattva samshuddhir jnana yoga vyavastitihi. What's he describing there? Anybody can say? Knowledge. These are the symptoms of knowledge. Purification of your existence. How does a housewife purify her existence? She becomes, as it's described here, ingita kovida. She's expert in understanding what is the nature of her husband, and she has to cater to that. Then it will be happy. Once you do that, he's happy, he's satisfied. No problem from that point on. Now, the husband also has to be sensitive. Men are always, they're often not sensitive emotionally, right? They say that's the stereotype. So he wasn't oblivious to the difficulties that she was doing. He was sensitive to the fact Devahuti is the daughter of a king. She's used to having servants. She's used to having everything that she likes, luxuries, a soft life. And here she is. She married a sage. She surrendered to his nature. She's acting like a tapaswini. In fact, she is a tapaswini. That is the real tapasya. So he was very considerate of that. And we will hear in the coming verses what did he do? How did he respond to that? But for the time being, in today's texts, we're hearing the words, well, here, Kalena Vratacharya, seeing after some time she was so emaciated and, worn away due to her Vratachari. Vratacharya means, just like Brahmacharya means to follow the spiritual life, so Vratacharya means to follow vows. Women especially, it seems like women are better at following vows, at least in India. They can do like this. Anyway, so, Prema gadgadaya vacha piditaha kripaya abravit. He spoke something out of compassion with words that were choked. He couldn't even he couldn't speak properly. He was so emotionally, here the word is used, overcome, pidita. In Sanskrit, this word pidita doesn't just mean overwhelmed, it also means oppressed. When you beat someone down, that's called pidita. So it's a strong word to use in this context. But he was really, really moved, we can say. And he was in fact pained by seeing all the austerities that this girl was performing only for him. And so he's responsive to that, as a husband should be. Because just as it is a duty of a wife to keep the husband happy, it's also the duty of the husband to keep a wife happy. And neither one of them can be easy. It's going to be difficult. But this is how household life can become as happy as it can become. This material world is always miserable, absolutely miserable. But it doesn't have to be as miserable as we make it. If we follow the rules and regulations, the regulative principles, and we lead a pious life, then we can be relatively happy in this world, just like devotees. Devotees are relatively happy. We have problems, all of us. We're conditioned souls too. We have material bodies. We have, as I said, we require dental work from time to time, and it's expensive, you might have noticed. But, you know, compared to the hellish austerities, I saw someone in Tijuana yesterday where we went to get some dental work done. A young girl with hair dyed maybe purplish, sort of red, you know, the types, baggy, you know, grimy jeans, and just, you know, this is like 8 o'clock in the morning, and she'd obviously not, you know, had a good night. I don't know where she was coming from. I don't know where she was going. She wasn't Mexican. She was a Videshi, as we say in India, a foreign person. Somehow she ended up in Tijuana. Who knows what she was doing there all night? And, you know, where she was coming from, where she's going, what her... it's a life that's lost, a human form of life, wasted in the pursuit of illusory sense gratification, and especially if we veer into sinful activities. That's one thing for which Tijuana is very well known, sinful activities. Anyway, so devotees don't have to suffer like that. And we see devotees are generally, as Prabhupada said, bright-faced. That means they're sattvic, they're following, they're happy. And they're going up. That's the main thing. Their trajectory is the important thing. What is your trajectory? Okay, so Savai Devarshi Vardyas, her husband was the best of the Devarshis. And here Prabhupada says, of course, if the husband is as great as Kardama Muni, then a very good result accrues from following him. But even if the husband is not a great devotee like Kardama Muni, it is the wife's duty to adapt herself according to his mentality. And then that's what makes your married life happy. Sometimes we hear, have you heard this? People say, well, when you act like Arjun, then I will act like Kunti. You ever heard that? It's common. I mean, that's not the right mentality. That's not the right mentality. Sway sway adhikare ya nishtasa guna parikirtata, or sway sway karmanya bhirata samsiddhim labhate naraha. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, everybody has to follow their own duty. Everybody may have different duties, but everybody is duty bound. That is real equality. Real equality means everybody does dharma. Not that everybody tries to do the same dharma, because that is in chapter 15 of the 7th canto. These are described as sinful, 5 kinds of pseudo-dharma, deep fake dharma, we can say. One of which is paradharma, to try to do somebody else's duty. That doesn't work, because you cannot. Sway sway adhikare ya nishtha sa guna parikirtata, Krishna tells Uddhava in Canto 11. To do what you are yourself qualified to do, that is a qualification, that is guna. And to try to do something else, that is dosha, flaw. What else do we? It's like when you go for a job interview, right? Sir, you are underqualified for this position. Sorry. You're not up to snuff. Or sometimes you go to a job interview and they say, well, I'm sorry, but I think that you're overqualified for this position. That is paradharma, you see. We have to be right on the money. You have to do exactly what you can do, not more, not less. Then it will be productive. That is That is what Dharma is meant to effect, and it's what we're enjoined to do. So, now, one extreme example of this principle, that even if the husband is not as great as Kardama Muni, then the wife still has to follow him, is Srila Prabhupada's brother-in-law, his sister. We used to call her Pishima. Pishima means auntie in Bengali. And her husband was like many Bengalis. He was not 100% vegetarian. They like to eat fish. And she's the wife. She has to work according to his needs. What did she do? Anybody know? She used to cook for him what he wanted. And she was initiated by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That's pretty extreme. I'm not advising that. Don't do like that. But still, it goes to show. The result of that, after a lifetime of such service, hopefully by the time we get to be 60, 70, or older, we should get some wisdom. And her husband finally did get some wisdom. He considered, evidently, he considered one day that, look, she's doing this for me. I know she doesn't believe in it. Just for the satisfaction of my senses, she's engaging in this activity just to keep me happy. And so he just rectified himself. This is the intention. A husband should be brought to the point of, well, to the point that Kardama Muni has come to now, that he appreciates the austerities of his wife. He's going to reciprocate, because it's been mentioned here, what did she expect from her husband? Anybody caught that? What was it that Devahuti was expecting from Kardama Muni? Mahashishaha, great blessings. Great blessings. So that means it's a husband's duty to provide great blessing for his wife. That makes household life also harmonious as much as possible. So these are a few things that Prabhupada has mentioned here in his purport. What else can we say? Gandhari, we've told of this example. She was blind. Yeah, here's it. Prabhupada says, if the husband is a devotee and the wife is materialistic, that's not going to work. And if the husband is materialistic and the wife is a devotee, that also we see it. It's very difficult. By sheer determination and Krishna's mercy, it can work, but it's not going to be easy. So, these are some things to consider here. Therefore, Prabhupada begins his purport with the real conclusion here. The wife is expected to be of the same category as her husband. This is something that we may recall if we've been reading carefully. When Kardama Muni was praying to the Lord for a wife, what did he ask for specifically? Anybody remember? What kind of wife did he ask for? Samana Shila, somebody whose character is equal to mine. Shila means character. Somebody has the same character. That's very, very, very important. Again, this is an extension of this principle that you have to be engaged in your own adhikar. And you have to marry into your own adhikar. If a Brahminical person marries a Shudra woman, it probably will not be so happy. Because what is the definition of Shudra according to Shankaracharya? Yashochati iti Shudraha. Somebody who's crying all the time, whining and complaining and hankering and lamenting. This is what it means to be a Shudra. Small-minded person. Less intelligent. So that's important. Samana Shila. He's asking, and here it said Samanuvrata. Because if you have Samana Shila, the same character, then you're able to be Samanuvrata. You can follow the same principles of austerity. as your spouse. Otherwise, it will be difficult. And that's one of many things that can create disharmony in a household situation. So, but Prabhupada says the basic principle is that if a husband is a devotee and the wife is materially, we've read this, if the wife must see that the husband, tendencies of the husband must be prepared to follow him. Yeah, okay, we've said enough now. Anybody have any questions or any comments on any of these things? Shachitanai Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. What will be your understanding of the future of this modern society nowadays, since the principles that we're teaching here are so elevated that even devotees ourselves were having a hard time? There's no Kardama Munis and there's no Devahutis.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, I mean,
there are some great souls, and they're the ones who are sustaining this whole universe.
Yes.
They may not be the ones taking credit,
I mean,
or given credit, but they're there.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, for the people to follow.
Yes.
So then, as I said, even we practitioners of Krishna consciousness, trying to be devotees, find these principles so elevated. But fortunately, we have Srila Prabhupada and the teachings, and we know how to act. But my question was, how do you see for the rest of the world? Of course, we don't want to minimize also there are other religious groups in which there are good followers too. And yes, but the rest of the, meaning 99%.
It's very easy to be discouraged in Kali Yuga, isn't it? And everybody's pretty much only going to discourage you. It's very rare to find a person who's going to be encouraging. But we have examples in our Shastras. These are confirmed. These are historical examples. We should not take this as mythology. These are historical accounts of people who applied these principles and got the results that we're aspiring after. So we have to be in touch with this. How do we do that? The work has already been done for us. All the hard work, the heavy lifting, as we say, has been done by Srila Prabhupada. While we all slept happily in ignorance, Srila Prabhupada stayed up every night writing all these Bhaktivedanta purports. All we have to do is tap into these purports, and we will have the association of all these great souls, and they will inspire us. Otherwise, your default is to follow the guy next to you, and he's going to fall anytime. That we've seen. It doesn't work. So, you know, that's a start at least, I can say that. We have to be absorbed in Srila Prabhupada's books because the books are the basis. And, yeah, Arjit is very eagerly, third time now he's raising his hand. So is that satisfying, Shachitonai?
Yeah.
The question is satisfied?
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for taking this class. There was some confusion because I had scheduled Arjun Gopa and some other. Anyway, thank you for jumping in and giving a really wonderful class at short notice. One point that comes up today that really has to be, since we're discussing, has to be thoroughly understood, is that following the husband doesn't mean falling down. Pishima didn't fall down, even though she was essentially, it seems, breaking some principle by cooking non-veg for her husband, but herself, she did not eat non-veg. And she's, again, an elevated soul. We can't follow that example to that extreme. But all of us are supposed to be vratacharis. All of us are supposed to be vow followers. So you've taken vows, and Prabhupada indicated quite clearly right here in Udorka, when one husband fell down, he told the wife, you don't have to support him, you don't have to follow him. Krishna is your husband, Krishna is you stay here and serve the deities. So we should take that very seriously. It's not that if my husband turns out to be a rascal or my wife is now smoking pot again and I have to support her by smoking pot. No, we've taken vows. So we have to stick to those vows in the context of marriage. Don't fall down just to satisfy somebody else. Don't fall down to satisfy somebody else. That's not supported by Shastra. It's not supported by Srila Prabhupada. He showed by his own indication to his disciples that if the partner falls down, you don't fall down to follow them in the name of supporting them and not feeling superior. No, you made vows, you have to stick to those vows.
This is why we have prostitutes. Husband will not, in India at least, the husband will not bother his wife. He'll go to a prostitute. Prostitute is meant for that. Wife is not meant for that. This is an important thing to consider. I mean, of course, there's no real need to go to a prostitute anyway, right? There's no need for sinful activity. You know, I have an emergency. I have to perform sinful activity. It doesn't work like that. Very urgent desire for sinful activity. It's not like that. So yeah, this is the point that should be emphasized. So thank you. Anything else? Yes. Prem Sankirtana.
Hare Krishna. So according with Varnashama system is the best, and you know, Brahmana woman married Brahmana husband, Kshatriya woman, Kshatriya husband, and is it the best solution like that? Less one is, for example, Kshatriya woman married Brahmana man, or Brahmana woman married Kshatriya woman. More advisable is maybe like Shudra woman married maybe Kshatriya or Brahmana. So best is they match one another according to Varnashama.
Yeah, Samana Shila, same class should be. Otherwise, it will be, you know, not entirely harmonious. It's a simple point. Somebody else was raising their hand on this side. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving the nice class. I was just a little curious. It seems very much emphasized that the wife is to serve the husband 100%, like that's kind of like her primary duty. So I was just wondering, like the historical context of Vedic culture, would the wife also take like a spiritual master, and if so, would she have service to her husband and her spiritual master, or just serve a guru vicariously through the husband?
Say this again in different words.
In the history of Vedic culture, would the wife also accept a spiritual master or just serve the husband? Because it seems that serving the husband is her only duty.
Yes. It's her only social duty. But we have a spiritual duty as well. We have, I was going to say in regard to Arjita Prabhu's point, you know, if you strictly follow your spiritual master, your spouse may not be entirely satisfied if they're not pure. If you strictly follow your spouse, then your spouse will be satisfied, but your spiritual master will not be fully satisfied. So we're living in two worlds at once. And both of those have to be somehow dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. I mentioned in the beginning, sattva samshuddhi means taking your material activities. Everybody is eating and sleeping and mating and defending, but how are you doing that? You have to do it in such a way that it's elevating you, and the only way to guarantee that is by doing it in a way that is enjoined in the Shastra. Shastra yonitvat. So, but at the same time, we should understand that that is not the complete perfection. If you follow everything socially in the mundane realm according to the Shastra vidhis, that's great. But if you don't have Krishna consciousness, then it's a useless waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. This is stated explicitly way back in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, because it's an important point also. That we all have a parodharma. Savai pungsam parodharmo yato bhaktir hokshije. Ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. The ultimate duty for everyone, regardless of their psychophysical condition, surrender to Krishna. That everybody has to do. Even a wife has to do that. Even a Shudra has to do that. Even a Kshatriya, Sannyasi, anybody, everybody. Everybody has that duty. Materially, we may all be different. We are all different. There's no material equality. That is a phantasmagoria. But spiritually, we do all have this equality. We're all servants of Krishna. But even there's different kinds of servants of Krishna. So, you know, it's a bheda maybe. living in two worlds at once. It's kind of like you've got a foot in one boat and you've got a foot in the other boat. You have to balance. Your material life will be hell if you're not attentive to what you're doing. Just like if you're grinding your teeth at night and they've become ground down to the point that the nerve is exposed and it's causing pain, you've got to go to the dentist and do something about it. Otherwise you'll be in pain. These things are important because we're not transcendental as much as we like to think we are. We're really not. When the mind and the body scream at us and demand so many things, we go for it. Because we're not that transcendental. That's why we have to chasten this mind-body complex with the rules and regulations of Shastra as instructed by the spiritual master. But at the same time, we should understand that's not the only duty we have. We have this ultimate duty of going back to Godhead, attaining pure devotional service. And that is overriding, in fact. Because all these other duties are really only meant to bring us to that point. As I said, yajna, dana, tapa, these three things, the common denominators of all the Shastra Vidhis, they purify the great souls, even Krishna says, pavanani manishinaha. Why do they purify us? Because they bring us to this ideal of nishkama karma by which we can actually serve Krishna in pure devotional service. Why aren't we pure devotees? Because we're kama karmis. We're not nishkama karmis. So if anything can bring us to the point of at least nishkama karma, then that's great. But we should not forget to employ that in Krishna's service ultimately. A woman also has to do that. So it's kind of like on a practical level, it's kind of like we have parallel lines of authority. Remember that paper? The GBC came. That, you know, we have a managerial system that Prabhupada set up for ISKCON, GBC, temple presidents, etc. You have to follow the orders. That's why I'm speaking today. But we also have our spiritual line of authority. They both have to go on at the same time, and it's a little bit like that. We have our social mundane dharmas, and we have our parodharma, spiritual dharma. They're both important. Is that okay? Shachitanoya again.
In that point of the question that he asked, just adding something that I just remember, that there are some spiritual masters that I know that in particular situations in which the spiritual master understand and put the whole trust in the couple, in the husband. I heard personally, and even to me it happens one time. He says, now, the spiritual master is saying, now you follow your husband. In other words, it's like not discharged from responsibility, but he's giving you that trust that I have full trust in you that you will guide her properly.
Yes.
So sometimes happens like that.
Yeah, well, that's the appropriate thing for a spiritual master to say also, because otherwise if all these women, every time they get an anxiety, and when are women not in anxiety? Every time they get anxious, if they send a letter to the spiritual, how is he going to spread Krishna consciousness? It's understood the husband has to deal with this and guide properly. So that's another way to look at it. A woman can also see that this person is the representative of my spiritual master, because how can the spiritual master be pleased if the husband is not pleased? That's another thing. You know, it's not that, you know, I don't like what my husband is saying, so therefore I'm going to go to my guru and override him. It indicates misunderstanding only of the philosophy. Okay, no other questions, then we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.